Hey guys, it's Jason over at Kaiser Willys, and today I want to talk about the dash. So I've already got in my CJ-2A, we've got the dash all set up, we've got all the wiring behind the dash. So I figured it might be a little easier to show you guys how everything is actually going to be wired while I've got this dash out of the vehicle. So this is not my dash, this is a dash that we sell here at Kaiser Willys. So you can buy these replacement dashes for the CJ-2A, the 3A. So if you do need to repair your dash panel and you need this dash panel, it's a great welded piece. But for information's sake, I went ahead and I set everything up as if this dash was in a vehicle already. This way I can kind of show you the in front and the behind the scenes of this actual dash. So here I've got my headlight switch. You've got two poles. You've got two poles will be turning on the headlights. One pole will be turning on the parking lights. And then of course, then you're going to then have it off. Then as we move over here, we've got our fuel gauge. We've got our oil pressure gauge. We've got our speedometer. We've got our temperature gauge. We've got our ammeter, which sometimes if you're 12 volt, you'll go to a voltmeter, but this is going to be setting it up with the ammeter. You've got your dash light, you've got your choke and throttle, and here you've got your ignition switch. Right here, this is where your emergency brake cane handle would go. So when you're pulling that emergency brake. And then I do want to discuss a couple things. So this doesn't have it set up for the high beam indicator light. So that's going to be a hole that you will have to drill wherever you decide to put it. For mine, I actually put it right here. So I had to drill a hole here and put that in my dash. And then some guys, they'll put it here. You can kind of put it wherever you need. The other thing that I did is I put a toggle switch right here next to my headlight switch. So you'll have to drill that hole. To get this headlight switch, I also had to take a drill bit and just kind of clean the hole up a little bit, make it large enough for that headlight switch to actually protrude through. So now that you've seen what this looks like from the front, I'm going to go ahead and turn this dash around and I'll show you kind of what the wiring looks like in a mock-up kind of a way, where you can see how these things are going to be wired up. So let's go ahead and turn this guy around. All right, so I've got this turned around. This is why I didn't want to do this video of my dash, because what you have to do is you're going to want to assemble a lot of this stuff while it's hanging down. That way you can then test it and make sure you've got the power where it needs to be, make sure the gauge is actually operating properly and so forth before you actually put it into the dash, because if it's not working and it's in the dash, you're just gonna have to take it apart and work with that little bit of space behind the dash. So let's kind of go through a few things. So here's your ignition switch. You've got a couple wires here. Basically what I did was I have these spare wires that we had from an existing harness. These are more or less the exact wires that we used for the harness that we have here at Kaiser Willys for that CJ-2A. All right, so the first thing I want to talk about is going to be our ignition switch. So this is where you've got a lot of jump points. This is going to have power on multiple posts. This center post right here, this is leading up to your starter or your solenoid. I do have a solenoid that I put on the firewall. This center post is going to go to the center post on that solenoid. So I did relocate and use a solenoid, so when I turn this key, I can actually start the engine using my key instead of that foot switch in the floorboard. So this center post is going to lead back to the center post on the solenoid, so when you do turn it over, it will start. You've got this wire right here, which is going to go to the IGN terminal. This is for your ignition. This wire will actually go through the firewall and then hook onto the positive side of that ignition coil. We've got this green wire. As you can see, this is actually heading over to the fuel gauge. So this is where the fuel gauge is going to get its power. And then what you have down here, you've got a wire that's leading back over to the ammeter here, positive terminal. And then the other one is actually going to head up to the front engine bay. So that's going to be your ignition switch. You've got IGN, you've got battery, and then you've got accessories. So if you're running a heater, if you're going to run an external light bar, if you want to have a radio, you'll jump your power off of the accessories terminal, and that's the way that will work out. So then this middle post, that's the ST for starter or starter solenoid. So that's your ignition switch. It's held on with basically a little nut on the front. You've got a nut on the back that kind of, when you pinch those two together, it stays in place. That's your ignition switch. Moving along on the dash, we've got our ammeter. You have a positive and a negative. So you've got the positive side, which is going to then jump your power over to your headlight switch. Then you've got this other cable, which is then going over here to the battery terminal on the ignition switch. On the other side, this is where you're going to be moving that ground in order to get power over to the horn. So this is your horn wire. This leads over to the main harness that's going to go through the firewall and then lead up to the horn. Then you've got this black wire here. This is going to then lead up to the solenoid as well. So this is also going through the firewall. The next gauge is your temperature gauge. So this gauge right here has this wire is actually built into it. It's not voltage specific, so you're not having to worry about 12 volt or 6 volt on this temperature gauge. This node right here is actually going to go into the head. You've got an adapter that's going to be on the head, which this right here, inline fitting, is going to then tighten in from there. Once you get that all seated down, this will actually seat into place, and that's where your temperature reading will come from, is through the head. The center gauge here, that's obviously going to be your speedometer. Your speedometer cable will hook here, and then it'll go back out through the firewall and hook onto your transfer case. Inside here is going to be a little squared off female receptacle, which is what that inner cable is going to go in. And so when everything's spinning, it's going to turn this, and then it's going to read on your speedometer of how fast you're going. This is your dash light. So what I've got here, I've got this wire, it's leading back over. I actually have it on a toggle switch. So on my CJ-2A, I've got this toggle switch so that I can turn on my dash lights separate from the headlights. I just want to be able to do that because I don't necessarily want this dash light on every time that I use my headlights, but I want to have that option there. So the toggle switch, really easy to do. You just will have to make that drill into the dash for this toggle switch to work out for you. This has a hood on it, like you saw in the beginning of the video. It's got a little hood here. There's a bulb that sits inside of that, and then that light just shines down onto the gauges, since none of these gauges have light built into them. Down here, we've got our oil pressure gauge. This oil pressure gauge is also not going to be voltage specific. Basically here, you've got this steel line, which is going to screw into the back side of the gauge. It's a pressure gauge, so it's just going to read that oil pressure. This steel line then goes out the firewall, and then using this little loom here and a clip, you'll then fasten that to the firewall of inside the engine bay. We've got our fuel gauge. This is going to be a gauge that is voltage specific, so 6 volt, 12 volt, you are going to have to match the hatch for that. You've got this green wire on the positive that's leading back over to the ignition switch. This red wire on the center post is going to be for your sending unit. It's marked with an S, so you have a positive, S, and a negative on the back side of this gauge. So positive going over to the ignition switch, sender for S going to the sending unit at the tank, and then the negative, which is a ground, which we have the ground connected right here to this post because this bracket is making contact with the dash. So that's where we're getting our ground from. So that's all the gauges here. That's going to be all of these. This, like I said, this is an amp gauge. It is going to be for 6 volt. We do have 12 volt conversions. So if you do go up to an alternator, this is going to be the voltmeter that we offer with our alternator. It changes things up just a little bit. This particular gauge has push-on terminals, so you will need to change out a couple of the terminals to push-on blade terminals. You have a positive, a negative, and then you've got your light bulb that's up here. What I did here was just to show you, you can then take this wire, you can stretch it over and then attach it to that toggle so that your dash lights and the voltmeter light comes on if you want to use a light for the voltmeter. And then you will have to move a few of these wires around. You'll have to relocate the power spot for your horn. So you do have a couple wires that are going to change up a little bit when you do go to a voltmeter. We do offer a voltmeter that does have 2 studs on the back like your amp meter does. Instead of these blade terminals, this is just the one that will come with our alternator kit. It's got this bracket here, so really nice upgrade option there. You just may have to change out some terminals with this guy. All right, the last thing to talk about here is going to be our headlight switch. So this is going to be the headlight switch that has 2 terminals here on a circuit breaker. You've got 3 terminals up here. You've got one that's going to lead back to your parking lights. So this yellow wire right here is going to lead back to your parking lights. That's that first pull. So when you pull it first, those will come on by themselves. You've got this wire right here, which is going to be for your high beams. This is going to then go to the dimmer switch, which is going to be located on the floorboard. You then over here, you have your, this is going to go back to your taillights. So this wire right here is going to be the jump point for the taillights. So I'm jumping over to the toggle switch. So this guy, you would just drill a hole. This is where I put mine. You'll drill the hole here, put this through. You've got a little beauty nut here that will then screw on from the back or from the front side. And then you've got your on off toggle, basically really easy, very convenient if you want to turn things on and off. Then you've got this power jumping back over to the amp meter. So I hope this helps. This is kind of giving you an idea of what's going on behind the dash. You can see it's kind of cluttered here, but that's exactly why we have zip ties and other means to then fasten it behind the dash so that it doesn't look like this crazy right here. You can make it look more professional. So I hope this helps. This is the wiring behind the dash. Thanks for watching.